This is a continuation of the What to Expect in Remake Part 2 series. In the previous episode, I detailed what I believe Calm will look like based on real-world locations, the potential expanded story, and the possible missions the town could offer. For this video, I am focusing solely on Cloud's story of the Nibelheim Incident and how it could be expanded or differ from the original in terms of both storytelling and gameplay. The compilation has retold the Nibelheim Incident several times, creating major inconsistencies with each retelling. Remake will be the definitive version, but that may not occur at this time. After all, this is Cloud's story. I expect there to be even more inconsistencies during this flashback, not only to make Tifa and the other party members confused, but also you, the player. What I'm saying is, the potential is anything and everything at this point. I won't go over the different variations of the Nibelheim Incident in this video because we will be revisiting this same topic later when we discover the true events revealed in Cloud's subconscious. The flashback opens with Cloud recalling the moment when he and Sephiroth were on a mission in Nibelheim. He was ecstatic. Not only was Sephiroth his childhood hero, but also Cloud just didn't see much action as he made soldier after the war with Wutai had ended. Or, in the case of Remake, when the ceasefire was issued, Cloud and Sephiroth had to battle a terrifyingly powerful green dragon in which Sephiroth struck down with only 2 attacks, displaying just how powerful he was. Our Patreon supporter No Way suggests that Part 2 opens right at this moment, with the player in full control of Sephiroth, and I gotta admit, this would be a pretty incredible way to start Part 2. Even if you do not have full control over Sephiroth, playing as Cloud getting roughed up by the dragon just to have Sephiroth come in to kill it with ease would be quite epic. This would also showcase how heroic Sephiroth once was. In this flashback during the original, you were able to explore Nibelheim and even walk into Cloud and Tifa's homes. When walking into Tifa's home, Tifa will interrupt Cloud telling the story and ask, "Did you really go into my house?" or "Did you really go into my room?" And if you search her dresser, you can keep a pair of orthopedic underwear, in which Tifa will ask if he's serious that he actually took a pair. This is something that will absolutely, without a doubt in my mind, carry right on over into Part 2. I'm joking, of course, but really though, if they wanted, Cloud could crack a joke here. Like in the original, Cloud opens the dresser drawer and Tifa's voice is heard shouting, "Cloud, really?" And Cloud responds with something like, "Relax, Tifa, I'm kidding." Anyways, while in Tifa's room, you can also play the piano. I wonder if we will get a fun piano minigame to dump an unreasonable amount of time into, recreating real-life songs before you know it. 10 hours have gone by and you haven't even finished the Nibelheim flashback sequence to even experience the rest of the game. In the same way that the guitar minigame from The Last of Us Part 2 did for many musically inclined content creators, I, for one, rocked a sick rendition of Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. The point is, a musical minigame that allows players to express themselves is not only fun, but a great marketing tool as it will be plastered all over YouTube and Twitch. In Remake Part 1, we got the scene of Cloud's mom, Claudia, sharing her motherly advice that Cloud get an older girlfriend to take care of him, so it may not be necessary for this scene to play out again. In the original, Barrett asks Cloud to go on. He wants to hear about Cloud visiting family. Cloud could just brush this off and continue with the rest of the flashback, or maybe just not be allowed to visit anybody's houses, because alternatively, from what I'm saying, it could very well be that this flashback sequence is guided and linear to pace the storytelling as Cloud provides the narration over the gameplay. But for the sake of this video, I'm going to assume that the player will have the same gameplay freedoms that they had in the original. With that said, I do feel it would be beneficial to the storytelling of the Nibelheim Incident if Cloud spoke with his mom, which I'll come back to a little later on. You also get a chance to meet Zangen, Tifa's martial arts teacher, as well as Tifa's father, Brian Lockhart. A photo of Cloud, Sephiroth, and Tifa is taken in front of the Shinra mansion. The party of Cloud, Sephiroth, 2 Shinra officers, and Tifa head to Mount Nibel towards the Mako reactor. The group, guided by Tifa, attempts to cross a rope bridge, but it snaps and they all fall to the area below. I'm very excited to see this as a much more stylized moment in part 2. One officer dies from this fall, which is kind of brushed aside in a single dialogue box from Sephiroth. Depending on how you read it, Sephiroth could seem cold and only focused on the mission, but what if Remake Part 2 clarifies with its ability to convey emotion through facial expressions and voiceover that Sephiroth cared about the loss of a comrade no matter what rank? We could see a chance of Remake dropping some hints during Cloud's story time to better highlight Tifa's suspicion and confusion. Will Remake stay true to this, or will they find a new way to ensure that Cloud remains an unreliable narrator at this point? Just expect some things to go differently than the sequence of events that I'm going through right now. Remake can do whatever they want here. This is just Cloud telling a story. It can be over dramatic and blown way out of proportions because that's what you do when you tell a story. You make yourself sound as cool as you can, or in this case, yourself and Sephiroth. But I'm still going to go through the key moments of this flashback in this video because iconic moments like that photograph in front of the mansion will definitely stay. So, back to the party of 4. I wonder if part 2 will have Tifa and the random Shinra officer engage in battles. They're certainly not going to sit on the sidelines, right? Like they did in the original? I mean, who doesn't want to see cowgirl Tifa kick some butt? Plus, she has been training with Master Zangen and has become quite the fighter at this point. Or, at least, she'll be on the same level as Cloud and the Shinra officer, just trying their hardest to keep up, while Sephiroth is taking care of business, looking all heroic as hell. In the original, although Sephiroth is in the party, the player does not have control over his attacks or abilities. Struggling against monsters of Mount Nibel just to see Sephiroth swooping in and slicing them up in a single slash as he uses powerful magic that we've never seen before. In the original, he uses 3rd level magic such as Bolt 3, Ice 3, and even Quake 3. Quake 3 being a new spell not yet seen in Remake. I believe we will see evolutions of magic spells in part 2. My own theory or speculation would be to add a 2 to the name. So Blizzard would level into Blizzard 2, Blizzara 2, and Blizzaga 2. That would pay homage to the original while keeping the magic spells fresh and exciting as they continue to get stronger. So, seeing Sephiroth use something like Blizzaga 2 at the start of part 2 would keep the player in awe of this power and anticipate one day using that spell later in the game. Really, this is all just evoking the same feelings that the original did. The party of Sephiroth, Tifa, Cloud, and the random Shinra officer approach the Mako fountain on their journey, where Sephiroth explains what materia is in its natural state at the Mako fountain. He explains how people can use magic with the knowledge and power of the ancients and the planet. Expanding on this short moment from the original could prove beneficial. It has some pretty important dialogue and history. I can see this playing out in a more dramatic cutscene than just standing around a fountain and chatting. Rewatching this moment had me wondering if materia in its natural state will also be explored further in Remake. Could be interesting to learn that if it has more potency and power, and maybe even call upon the true summons rather than the Shinra fabricated materia. Perhaps Wutai still has the natural summon materia of Leviathan, and Fort Condor houses the true Phoenix. That's just me going a bit off the rails, so let me get back on track now. At the Mount Nibel reactor, Sephiroth is a gentleman and requests that the officer watch over the lady. This is important because with Remake, we'll be able to see a little bit more body language and facial expressions from that Shinra trooper as he interacts with Tifa alone. The following is one of the greatest, most iconic moments in video games, and Remake Part 2 needs to deliver tenfold on this. They need to go all in. We had a brief glimpse at the maniacal experiments that Shinra has been up to in Part 1 at the end of Chapter 13. Cloud says,
"Yeah, That's the Shinra I know.
When seeing human test subjects, perhaps he was referencing this particular moment with Sephiroth at Mount Nibel Reactor. Sephiroth loses his cool as he slowly starts to piece together the puzzle of his own life. Since the party has seen firsthand what Shinra is capable of, I don't think the party will be as shocked as they were in the original when Cloud tells this part of the story. So, on to the next part of Cloud's story, back in Nibelheim. The player can explore the mansion even though there's not much you can do besides another piano to play. Again, this video is not meant to deep dive into the aesthetics of Nibelheim, as that will be in a separate video later on. But I do wonder how the spiral staircase made of wood planks will be handled in Remake. It does a great job illustrating how Sephiroth has spiraled into madness, and I'd love to see Remake keep the top-down camera angle for this area. I know there's a lot of people wanting to see Vincent, and that's all I'm going to say. It's not going to happen. When you find Sephiroth, he is reading about Genova and the Cetra and discovering who he truly is. This moment is so important that I can only imagine how it will be represented in Remake. Sephiroth pacing the library with his eyes glued to the book in hand, possessed by curiosity and a need to understand. He barely acknowledges Cloud's presence, simply requesting to be alone. In the original, the screen fades and the music changes to dark and eerie as Cloud wakes up in bed. In the original, Cloud says Sephiroth spent 3 days in the basement's library, whereas Crisis Core says a whole week. But either way, Remake has the opportunity to explore this time gap to really put a focus on the unease and tension that built up in Nibelheim during Sephiroth's isolation. Now, this would be a dramatic departure from the original, but Tifa, although listening intently to Cloud's recollection of events, could provide some input from her point of view. In the original, Aerith does check in with Tifa, and maybe this time she can ask Tifa how she was feeling during all of this, and about the tension that was building in Nibelheim. If Tifa shares a personal story here, it would provide additional backstory for her and really drive home the emotional impact of her father dying, and after all, Nibelheim was her hometown too. Cloud could resume the role of the storyteller as he recalls the day everything changed. Cloud goes to see Sephiroth, who explains that he knows now who he is. He is a product of the Genova project, led by Professor Gast. He exclaims that he is going to see his mother. Upon exiting the mansion, Cloud witnesses Nibelheim in flames. We only see a few people, but this moment should have a whole population of screaming citizens in a panic as they watch their homes, family, and friends burn. We saw that the fires in Nibelheim scarred Cloud's psyche in Chapter 2 of Remake Part 1. He is haunted by this very moment. They shouldn't hold back here. Show the player the chaos and horror. The original allowed Cloud to speak with one individual who was lying on the ground, uncertain if he was going to live through this. Zangan runs into a burning house to check for survivors. Cloud runs into another. Imagine searching a burning house, calling out for anyone to answer. But wouldn't you think the first house you check is your own? Part 2 should have Cloud looking for his mother in their home, perhaps only to find her slain. Again, in Chapter 2 in Remake, Sephiroth seems to take pleasure in explaining how she pleaded for him to save Cloud before yielding to cold steel. Sephiroth murders 2 people right before Cloud's eyes. And then the iconic scene of Sephiroth turning and walking through the fire. Cutting to the Mount Nibel reactor, Cloud finds Tifa stricken by the death of her father. She picks up the murder weapon that was left at the scene and charges after Sephiroth. We actually caught a glimpse of this in Remake Part 1, but now we'll get to see this play out in way more detail. Also curious to see how it's handled in Remake. In the OG, Tifa charges up the stairs to attack Sephiroth, only for him to disarm her with ease and cut her down with the Masamune. with such force that she is sent flying all the way down to the bottom of the flight of stairs. Tifa has no visual scar in Remake, if that sort of thing is even to be considered, but I'd like for this moment to stay intact, even if Sephiroth just disarms her and throws her down the stairs, enough to severely injure her. Either way will work fine for me. Cloud confronts Sephiroth in Jenova's chamber as he reveals Jenova in a tank. Sephiroth claims to be the chosen ruler of the planet, and just as they're about to fight, Cloud ends the story. He doesn't remember what happened. All they know is that Sephiroth was reported dead after that. With all of this said, you can look at Cloud's story as, well, a typical story following the structure of most narratives we all know. The exposition, the battle with the green dragon introducing Sephiroth and how powerful he is. The introduction of Cloud and Tifa's hometown and family. This could keep a fun, lighthearted tone with room for Cloud to make that joke or two. Talk about how he played piano. After all, Cloud is in the mindset of trying to act cool and impress Tifa and Aerith, as well as his new friends. The rising action. Climbing Mount Nibel. I mean, this just works, everyone. During the climb, Sephiroth is displaying superhuman capabilities. Perhaps there is something very special and unique about him, maybe too unique. At the peak of the mountain with Sephiroth's discovery, his isolation and the tension that builds as he learns who he truly is, the climax, and when Sephiroth burns Nibelheim. The falling action, he goes to see his mother. Cloud follows him. The two face off. The resolution? Well, there is none. Not yet. Cloud doesn't remember, so the flashback is like a typical story structure without the resolution, which is what makes it so gripping in this moment in the original Final Fantasy VII. What happens? How is Sephiroth alive? How did Cloud survive? In terms of skill, Sephiroth would have surely won. Find out next time on Final Fantasy VII. But wait! Maybe Cloud does remember. In Chapter 2 of Remake, Cloud sees Sephiroth in an illusion within the aftermath of the Reactor 1 bombing. Cloud utters the words,
"You're not real. You're dead. I killed you with my own..."
This may imply Cloud will have a better idea of what happened in that fight. He seems to be aware that he killed Sephiroth, but if you listen closely, how the line is delivered, Cloud gasps after saying,
"I killed you with my own..."
Possibly, he started to say something that he didn't really understand. Like it came out, but it cut himself off because he didn't even believe what he was saying. All this could very likely be the opening cinematic for Part 2. If Square is looking to, for the lack of a better phrase, cut corners to cover the most ground in the next installment, they could decide that making the flashback fully playable is just not a priority. It could be told in an opening cinematic, maybe even with Cloud narrating. I can't deny, seeing a full CGI movie play out these events wouldn't be the worst thing. Just as the opening cinematic for Part 1 got us hyped to play. You can imagine how hype it would be to see the devastation of Nibelheim first thing. As I said, some of the moments were actually covered in Part 1, further supporting this idea, but this method could run the risk of losing the nuance I've talked about in this video. A compromise would be to have the opening cinematic show a stylized CGI movie of battling the green dragon, the rope bridge breaking, and then put the player in control right as the party arrives at the reactor to witness Sephiroth's descent into madness and the fires of Nibelheim firsthand, and experience the loss that Cloud and Tifa suffered as you guide them through their tragedy. This would be a strong opening gameplay segment that would match Part 1's bombing mission and its Scorpion Sentinel boss fight. I've actually heard complaints that the flashback in Calm was too long in the original. Square may try to address that here in Remake Part 2 and condense the story that Cloud tells. This video series will keep with the continuity of the things you can expect in Remake Part 2.
Please be excited for
What to expect in Remake Part 2, Midgar Zalem. and the Chocobo Farm videos coming very soon. Please subscribe, ring the bell, thumbs up, and comment with your thoughts. What would you like to see happen during the flashback in Calm? Thank you for watching.